I read over 100 thriller books in 2025, and these are my top 15. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Carly, and today is the start of all the end of year content, and I'm going to be talking to you all about my top 15 favourite thriller books that I read in 2025. I absolutely love a thriller book, and I really struggled to narrow it down to just 15. So just know that the books in this video are definitely worth picking up if you enjoy reading thrillers as well. Just looking at the stack of books next to me by here, and there's a decent mix of kind of like thriller subgenres. So we've got some police procedural, we've got some kidnap, we've got some psychological thriller, domestic thriller, and we've got some that are just completely unhinged that I read at the beginning of the year and I haven't stopped thinking about since. So of course they had to make this list. Before we get into the books, I just want to apologise for my croaky voice. I started 2026 off by being struck down with some hideous disease. So yeah, I'm hoping that my voice holds on for me to record this video. I've got my tissues and I've got my hydration. So yeah, I'm hoping I'm good to go. And yeah, I think I'm just going to leave the intro there and dive straight into these books. I think I forgot to say this in the intro, but these books are in no particular order. To be honest, I found it hard enough to narrow it down to 15 without trying to tier rank them as well. So yeah, these are in no particular order. I think there's a handful of them that are 5 stars. I think there's only 3 5 stars in this stack, is there? Which I will save until the end of the video, but apart from that, yeah, no particular order. And we're going to start things off with The Last Party by A.R. Torre. This book is available on Kindle Unlimited, and it follows the story of Perla, who lives in her lovely house with her husband and her daughter. And Perla is a little bit obsessed with an old case from 20 odd years ago, where 2 young girls were during a birthday party. Now, the person that did it is behind bars. He confessed to doing it, but Perla just becomes more and more obsessed with this case as the years go on. So obsessed, in fact, that she decides that she would like to recreate this crime scene with her own daughter. And honestly, it is as unhinged as it sounds. So the whole book, I mean, hence the title of the name, is all about Perla planning the birthday party of all birthday parties for her daughter, where she's planning to her and recreate the crime scene from 20 years ago. Now, this isn't really your typical thriller book. I wouldn't really say it's like fast-paced or anything. But the reason it's in this top 15 list is because I read it at the beginning of 2025 and I think about it almost on a daily basis just because of how despicable Perla is as a character. Like, I was, as a mother myself as well, absolutely outraged, and I was going to say flabbergasted then. I bloody love that word, but I was. My flabbers were well and truly gasted reading this book because Perla's behaviour was just absolutely outrageous. The more you read of this book, the more you're just like, I'm going to need therapy after reading this. I highly recommend this one if you just want something completely unhinged that's going to absolutely traumatise you. Next up, we have got Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. And I do feel like I have banged on about this book quite a lot on my channel. So if you are a regular, I'm very sorry for the repetition, but I just couldn't leave it out of this list. It's another one that I read towards the beginning of last year that has stayed with me. So this follows the story of Christine, and every time Christine goes to sleep, she loses her memory and forgets her whole life. So every morning she wakes up, she looks at herself in the mirror, and she's panicking. She's really confused. She doesn't know who the man is in the bed next to her. She doesn't know why she looks 10 years older in the mirror than what she thought she looked like in her head. It kind of gives like 50 First Dates vibes a little bit, only a lot more sinister. The only person Christine has in her life that's able to tell her what happened to her is her husband Ben, and Christine isn't convinced that Ben is telling her the whole truth. So Christine starts investigating her life and she starts keeping a diary. Honestly, this is such a frustrating book to read just because you feel so frustrated on Christine's behalf, because just as she would take like 2 steps forward in her investigation into her own life, she'd go to sleep and she'd forget all about it. So yeah, she creates this diary and tries to prompt herself to find the diary every morning, to rejig her memory on what she's discovered. And honestly, this book, I just think it is so underrated. It's actually been made into a film with Nicole Kidman. As always, the book was a million times better than the film. I didn't think the film was that great. They did change a few things, and yeah, I didn't get the same experience from the film as I did with the book. This book gave me the worst anxiety while I was reading it. And yeah, like I said, it's just extremely underrated. I absolutely loved it. It stressed me out, which is exactly what I want from a thriller book. And yeah, I highly recommend this one if you like a psychological thriller that will definitely raise those anxiety levels. Next up, we have got Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Cavanagh. And this is another book that gave me the most horrendous anxiety while I was reading it. So it follows the story of two strangers who meet at a bar completely by chance. One is Amanda, the other is Wendy, and after a couple of drinks, they realise that they both have a lot in common and that they both desperately want revenge against two men that have completely destroyed their families. And after a few more drinks, they hatch the perfect plan. If you kill for me, I'll kill for you. So essentially, they agree to each take out the man that has destroyed their lives. Do you know what I mean? So Amanda is going to Wendy's guy and Wendy is going to Amanda's guy. Do you know what? I absolutely inhaled this book. I couldn't put it down, and when I had to put it down, I couldn't wait to pick it back up again. There are twists and turns throughout. It is another one that is just so outrageous to read. Another one that will definitely elevate that heart rate. Honestly, my heart was in my mouth while I was reading this book. And yeah, it's another one that I actually think is a little bit underrated. I know a lot of people have read and loved this book, but I don't think it gets the hype that it definitely deserves. So, yep, I recommend this one if you love a pulse-pounding psychological thriller about revenge. Next up, we have got The Trap by Catherine Ryan Howard. And this is another one that I read towards the beginning of 2025 that I have not stopped thinking about since I read it. And you know what? I am so confused by the 3.8 star rating for this on Amazon, like the average rating, because I feel like maybe I was reading a different book. Now, this book is another one that is completely outrageous and absolutely unhinged. And it's all about a woman who roams the streets, roams the dark roads at night, hoping that she can get herself kidnapped by the same man that kidnapped her sister a year ago. Because in her head, she thinks that's the only way she's going to be able to find her sister. Like, I was literally gasping out loud while I was reading this book because I was like, surely not. Surely she is not trying to get herself kidnapped. And I tell you why I love this book so much is because the twist absolutely got me a good one. Like, I finished this book and I was like, you know when people say thriller books with twists so good that it will leave your jaw on the floor? This is one of those. Like, my jaw, if it was long enough, would have been well and truly on the floor. You know when you read a twist and then you're like, have I just read that right? And then you have to go back a couple of chapters and reread it just to make sure that you haven't read the twist wrong, because it is so bloody good. That is exactly the experience I had with this book. And yeah, a 3.8 star rating on Amazon. I am absolutely baffled. I don't get it. I highly recommend this one. If you like the vibes, a little bit on the unhinged side, you like a kidnapping trope, and you want to have your mind blown with an absolutely phenomenal twist. Right, next up, I'm going to cheat a little bit because I'm going to recommend a series, because one of my favourite thriller books from 2025 is actually part of the series, so I couldn't really just recommend that without recommending the whole series. So the series is the Washington Post series by N.W. Craven. I think these can be read as standalones, but I would recommend you read them in order. So yeah, book one is The Puppet Show. Book two is Black Summer, which is my favourite in the series so far. Book 3 is The Curator, and book 4 is Dead Ground. I think there's 7 in total, but that's as far as I've read in this series so far. And yeah, I am absolutely loving this series. Again, so bloody underrated. So these books are like police procedural type thriller books, and it's all about a detective called Washington Poe, hence the name of the series, and his sidekick called Tilly, she works for the National Crime Agency, and she is one of my favourite book characters. She is absolutely hilarious. She is very straight talking, very to the point. I think it is suggested that Tilly is neurodivergent. She definitely gives Strange Sally Diamond vibes. And yeah, this is kind of like the duo you never knew you needed in your life, and together they solve crimes. So in book 1, in The Puppet Show, there's a serial killer who is burning his victims alive, and one of the victims has Washington Poe's name carved into his chest, and everyone's like, well, I mean, apart from the fact that he's absolutely grim, why is Washington Poe's name carved into his chest? And then book 2 is Black Summer, and this book is so clever. Honestly, absolutely blew my mind. All of the books in the series I've read so far are really, really clever. And I do feel like they're not your typical thriller books. They're not fast paced, but they still hold your attention the entire time. And then when the reveals start coming and everything starts coming together, honestly, there is no way in a million years you will ever guess the twists in these books. They are absolutely mind-blowing. So in this book, which is book 2 in the series, it's all about a killer who has been put away. He's behind bars. He was convicted for the murder of his daughter Elizabeth. Her body was never found, but largely due to Washington Poe's testimony, he's ended up behind bars serving a life sentence. However, a young girl has just walked into a police station claiming that she's actually Elizabeth, the daughter of the guy that's currently serving a life sentence for supposedly offing her. And yeah, the whole book is trying to uncover what the bloody hell is going on, to be honest. Like, the way M.W. Craven has layered the plot in this book is absolutely incredible. There are so many times where there's like a little seed of doubt. Like when you're reading it, you as the reader, you are sat there thinking, these things, it's not really adding up. Do you know what I mean? I still feel absolutely mind blown by the ending of this book, and I read it a couple of months ago. Like, it's so good. So yeah, highly recommend this book, but definitely recommend you start with book 1 first. And yeah, just recommend the series as a whole, especially if you love police procedural there's a bit of humour in there, there's intricately layered plots and twists that will absolutely blow your mind. Next up, we have got The Last Thing to Burn by Will Dean. Now, this is only a snack-sized thriller. It is under 250 pages, and it's all about a woman called Jane who is being held hostage by her own husband. They live in a small cottage, and Jane is completely trapped. Her husband records her every move, and if she puts a foot wrong, he punishes her. Honestly, this book is another one that gave me the worst anxiety. It made me feel so claustrophobic because Jane is claustrophobic because she's in this cottage and there's nowhere for her to go. It also makes us as the reader feel claustrophobic as well. Like, I inhaled this book as well. This is another one because it's short. It is very to the point. You are straight into the action from page 1. And the whole book is basically all about Jane's absolutely horrendous ordeal at the hands of her husband and her desperately wanting to escape her very miserable existence. And that's all I'm going to say about the plot because, like I said, it's only a short book, so I don't want to spoil anything. Just go into it and prepare yourself to feel stressed up to the eyeballs while you're reading it. And if you are like me, like, that is exactly what I want from my thriller books, because in my head, I mean, I don't know if it's a bit backwards, but stressed equals thrilling. So if I'm stressed reading a book, then I'm having a bloody lovely time. Next up is another one that really stressed me out while I was reading it. Run on Red by Noelle Ihli. This is another one actually that I'm really confused by the average rating for. The average rating for it on Amazon is 3.9. And that average rating is the reason I put off reading this book for so long. But I had an absolutely fantastic time while I was reading it. So the story in this book follows two girls who are in the car on their way to a summer party. However, they are being harassed by the car behind them. So they initially think it's just a case of road rage. They're like, oh, who are these idiots behind us? But what begins as them thinking that it's just a case of road rage quickly becomes something far more sinister. Like, we've got a high-speed car chase. The car behind them just will not leave them alone. And it goes from this high-speed car chase to a cat and mouse chase on foot and a fight for survival. Honestly, this book, even just talking about it is giving me anxiety. I was sweating while I was reading it. You know when you've got like sweaty palms when you're reading a book? Like, to me, this is like everything a thriller book should be. It is fast-paced, it is dangerous, it is anxiety-inducing. So I recommend this one if you're looking for something that's very easy to read and something that will just give you horrendous anxiety while you're reading it. Next up, we have got They Never Learn by Layne Fargo. And I absolutely loved this book. So it follows the story of our main character called Scarlett, who by day is an English professor and by night she's a serial killer. So Scarlett pretty much just makes it her mission to track down all the predatory men on campus and to do away with them so that she can stop them hurting anybody else. And then you've got like a subplot where there's a girl called Carly. We've got a main character called Carly, and she becomes obsessed with wanting to get revenge on the attacker that hurt her roommate. And pretty much the whole book is all about the police getting closer and closer to Scarlett because she's not being very careful, to be honest, and they're starting to get dangerously close to revealing what she's been up to. This has been described as being a feminist revenge thriller, and to be honest, those are some of my favourite books to read. I absolutely love me a feminist revenge thriller. I love an unhinged female character, and yeah, Scarlett is one of my favourite characters that I read in a book last year. And again, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it at all, but all I'm going to say is the ending of this book is so satisfying. I actually finished it, closed the page, and I had a big smile on my face. Absolutely loved it, and I highly recommend if you love an unhinged female character as well. Next up is another series recommendation. It is the Dr. Olivia Winter series. This is book 1, which is The Mind of a Murderer. This is book 2, The Devil's Code. And book 3, I believe, is coming out around April time. So these books follow Dr. Olivia Winter, strangely enough, who is a forensic psychologist, and she specialises in the mind of serial killers. So her job is to understand the minds of serial killers and ultimately use that to profile them and help the police catch them. However, there is one serial killer that Olivia has never been able to understand, and that was her father, who was not only a serial killer, but he also murdered her sister and her mother and tried to murder her. So she was the last surviving victim of her own father. So that's like Olivia's backstory. That isn't a spoiler at all. Like, that is the whole point of the books. And yeah, in book 1, we've got a serial killer stalking the streets of London, and Olivia helps the police with that case. And then in this one, I actually preferred this one over this one. So this is book 2. In The Devil's Code, there's, right at the beginning of the book, so it's not a spoiler, the police pull over this guy because his tail light is out. This guy's behaviour is immediately suspicious, so to cut a very long story short, the police pop the boot of the car, or trunk if you're in America, and inside his boot is a load of dismembered body parts. Now, initially, they think that this is a one-off thing, until his daughter is clearing out all of his stuff and she finds a hidden notebook behind, like, underneath the floorboards or something. And inside this notebook is a code. hence the name of the book, The Devil's Code. And the whole book is basically Olivia and her team trying to decipher the code of this book to see if it is a one-off or if in fact this man, this serial killer, has been operating right under their noses all this time. Honestly, these books, again, massively underrated series. I don't think I've seen anybody ever talk about them. I am so excited about book 3. I just love anything that is, I don't know, anything to do with like profiling and forensic psychology. I just have this like morbid fascination with it all. And yeah, I just love Olivia's character. I just love that her backstory is so messed up. So I would recommend these for anybody that loves a serial killer thriller and anything that's kind of like police procedurally. Next up is Night Watching by Tracy Sierra, and this is another book that I have not stopped thinking about since I read it. So this follows the story of a woman who is tucking her son into bed at night, and as she's tucking him into bed, she hears the creaking of footsteps coming up the stairs when there definitely shouldn't be any footsteps coming up the stairs. And she, like, this is right at the beginning of the book, and she's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So obviously there's an intruder in her house. Like, this is ultimate home invasion thriller vibes. And she just stands there thinking to herself, like, what am I going to do? Am I going to try and fight? Shall I hide? Shall I try and get the kids, because she's got 2 children? Shall I try and get them and escape? However, just to make things a whole lot worse, they are also in the middle of a snowstorm. So even if she gets the kids out, like, where is she going to take them? This book kicks off from the very first page, and I cannot even begin to tell you how stressed out I was while I was reading it. It's another one that gives the ultimate claustrophobic vibes, because you've got the snowstorm, you've got the intruder inside the house. It is very like, you can't make a sound. Her children are very young, and she's trying to explain to them, you can't make a noise because this guy, like, there's this man in our house and he's not a very nice man and he's, you know, going to do not very nice things type thing. And while I was reading it, I actually caught myself holding my breath a few times. You know, the famous, I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. That was literally me while I was reading this book. I was so stressed out. But again, that's exactly what I want. I love anything like that. Anything that makes me feel claustrophobic. Anything that makes me feel anxious. And yeah, this is another one I think is massively underrated. It is perfect to read this time of year because, you know, we're still in winter. And I tell you what, this actually reminded me of the film Panic Room with Jodie Foster in, because that's like a home invasion, isn't it? Definitely gave those vibes. So if you like that film, you will absolutely love this book. Next up is Famous Last Words by Gillian McAllister, and this is another one that I absolutely inhaled. So it follows the story of Camilla, who is getting ready for her first day back at work. She's been on maternity. It's her daughter's first day at nursery as well. But her husband Luke is nowhere to be seen. There's an unfinished note on the kitchen table as well. It's all a bit strange, but Camilla is trying her best not to panic until there's breaking news about a hostage situation at Luke's place of work. Camilla starts panicking, thinking, oh my God, I hope he's okay. However, it turns out Luke isn't a hostage, he's actually the gunman. So, as you can imagine, Camilla is even more confused by what on earth is going on. So pretty much the whole book is Camilla trying to work out what has led Luke to this point. Like, what has happened to make him hold people hostage, because that is not who Luke is at all. She also needs to try and work out what this unfinished note was trying to tell her. And yeah, like I said, I absolutely loved it. Couldn't stop reading it. I actually started this on the plane on my way to Paris, and when the plane landed I was like, oh no, I want to carry on reading my book. I didn't actually want to go to Paris, I wanted to read this. It is another one that is fast-paced, it is anxiety inducing, it is high stakes, dangerous. absolutely loved it. And to finish off, we have got my 5-star thriller books. There are only 4 thriller books that I gave 5 stars to in 2025. That's absolutely crazy, isn't it? But I do feel like I very rarely give thriller books 5 stars because so many tropes and so many themes have been done over and over again. So for a thriller to get a 5-star rating, it has to be absolutely perfect. So I'm going to start off with one that was originally a 4.5-star rating, but I've since increased it to a 5-star because the longer I've thought about it, the more I just think it was absolutely perfect and I bloody loved it. It is My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney. I'm not sure this is out yet. I think this is out in the next week or so. It's been released in January. I was lucky enough to be sent an early copy by the publisher. And yeah, this is another one that I absolutely raced through. And I tell you what, it is the first book in a very long time that when I was reading it, I couldn't stop reading. Like, I read this late into the night, and that is not the type of person I am. Like, I'm an early to bed, early to rise kind of girly. But yeah, I was reading this like up until midnight. I just could not put it down. I couldn't tear myself away. This is another one that's absolutely wild. So it follows the story of Eden Fox, and the book opens with Eden going out for her morning run. She comes back home, goes to use her key in the front door, and her key isn't working. And she's like, that's a bit strange. So anyway, she keeps trying her key in a front door, doesn't work. So she knocks the front door, and a woman opens the door, and this woman looks suspiciously like Eden herself. And she's claiming that she's actually Eden, and the one that's just been out for a run is an imposter. Now, straight away, I was like, can you imagine being in that situation where nobody believes you are who you say you are? Because Eden's husband is also in the house and he agrees with the woman that's just opened the door. And he's like, no, you're not Eden. The one in the house is Eden. This is so hard to talk about when both of them are claiming to be the same character. All of the Eden that's just been out for a run, all of her stuff, like her purse, her ID, her phone, everything is in the house. So she has no access to any of it. And she has no other way of proving she is who she says she is. This would be my absolute nightmare, like my worst nightmare. And then you've got a subplot that doesn't really sound like it fits into this book, but it definitely does, which is all about a clinic, this very suspicious clinic that is claiming they can predict people's day of death. So if you apply to this clinic and you get accepted, they will send you what day you're going to die. I mean, that's a bit morbid, isn't it? But yeah, there's that subplot as well. And honestly, I don't even know what Alice Feeney put in this book, but I was addicted. I just could not put it down. I couldn't stop reading it. In classic Alice Feeney style, you've got twists and turns that will absolutely blow your mind. And yeah, I think I originally rated this 4.5 stars because I read Beautiful Ugly last year and I absolutely loved it. And I gave that 5 stars and I preferred Beautiful Ugly only a tiny bit over this one. So I was thinking, like, in my head, oh, logically, I'm going to have to mark this one down a little bit because I preferred Beautiful Ugly. But I just, like, the more I sat on it, the more I thought they can both be a 5-star read. Like, I can't fault it. Cannot fault this book. I absolutely loved it. So yeah, ended up increasing it to a 5-star. And to be honest, this is your sign to add it to your pre-order list because I think this is going to be a massive book for 2026. Next up, we have got Next of Kin by Kia Abdullah, and this is another one that's available on Kindle Unlimited and another one that I absolutely inhaled. I think I probably said that about every single book in this video. So this book follows the story of Layla, who is on her way to drop her nephew off to nursery. However, Layla is very busy. She gets distracted and she ends up driving to work, forgetting that her nephew is in the car, and she leaves him in the car on the hottest day of the year. Now, as you can imagine, things don't end very well, and pretty much the whole of the rest of the book is all about the repercussions after this event. Now, when I went into this book, all of this happens right at the beginning, and I was thinking to myself, how is the rest of the book going to work when the big event has happened right at the beginning? And similarly to what I said about the Alice Feeney book, I don't know what Kia Abdullah put into this book, but again, I just couldn't stop reading. I was addicted and I couldn't stop thinking about it when I wasn't reading it. So you've got the whole court case. There's also the narrative about whether or not Layla did it on purpose, because her and her sister, they've got a very toxic relationship. They're both jealous of each other. So her sister's like, did you do this on purpose? So there's that narrative as well, that as the reader, you're like, did she do it on purpose? Was it an accident? And yeah, it just sounds like a typical, like, average thriller. But it just, oh my God, it absolutely consumed me while I was reading it. I was desperate to find out what had happened. And no spoilers at all, but the amount of twists at the end of this book actually gave me whiplash. There was just twist after twist after twist. None of them I predicted. I was so convinced I had it all worked out. And yeah, there was about 6 twists at the end, and I didn't guess any of them. So I think if a book can do that, then it deserves a 5-star rating. Next up is The Good Girl by Michelle Dunn. And this is another one that, in my opinion, is massively underrated. I have never, ever seen anybody else talk about this book, and it absolutely blew me away. It follows the story of Grace, who lives a very simple life. She works as a barista. She makes delicious meals for her and her sister, because when they were little, they were neglected, and Grace made a pledge that they would never go hungry as adults. Grace is very much well loved in the community, and what nobody would ever guess in a million years is that Grace is also a serial killer, and she has a man cable tied to a chair back at her home. Do you know what? I'm not even going to say any more about the plot. You don't need to know any more about the plot. What I will say though is make sure you check any trigger warnings before you go into it, because this book was a lot darker than I thought it was going to be. I went into it expecting it to be a little bit like They Never Learn and the Kitty Collins, like How to Kill Men and Get Away with It books. I thought it was going to be like a light-hearted female revenge thriller, and this was dark. This was very dark in my opinion. But I mean, we listen and we don't judge, okay? I absolutely love my books dark. Like, the darker the better, because I just feel like that's what gets a reaction from me. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit broken. Maybe I've just read too many thriller books. But I do think when you read a lot of thriller books, so many of them have been done over and over again that you're almost like desensitized to a lot of the content. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, this book just shocked me in the best possible way. I actually did this one on audio, and I would highly recommend the audio. I think the narrator did an absolutely incredible job. Literally from page 1, I was so invested in Grace's story, in Grace and her sister's story. I wanted to find out like what happened to them as children. I wanted to find out why she was doing what she was doing. Like, why did she have beef with all these men? You've kind of got like a subplot as well, which is all about a detective who has noticed that a lot of men have been going missing recently. He starts looking into it. He's a friend of Grace as well. So yeah, you've got that dynamic, and I honestly cannot fault this book. And it's another one that I haven't stopped thinking about since I finished reading it. I think I read this a couple of months ago. And yeah, it's just left such an impression on me. Like I said, massively underrated. And I highly recommend, if you like your books a little more character driven. I do feel like I loved this so much because I loved Grace as a character. And last but definitely not least is one I don't have a physical copy of yet. I'm waiting for it to come out in paperback. I've got it on pre-order. It's coming out in paperback next week, and it is Human Remains by Jo Callahan. Now, this is actually part of a series as well, and I recommend the series as a whole. Again, I do recommend you read them in order. So book 1 is In the Blink of an Eye, book 2 is Leave No Trace, and yeah, this is book 3. The last book in the series, book 4, is actually being released in May next year. So if you haven't read this series yet and you like the sound of it, then this is your sign to read book 1, 2 and 3 just in time for the new release of book 4 in May. So this series is kind of like a police procedural detective series, but with a little bit of a difference. So we've got a human detective called Kat, and we've got an AI detective called Locke, and it's all about kind of like the battle between human versus AI. Now, I know that a lot of people have been put off by the AI element, but I just think Joe Callahan has done this so well. So in book 1, Cat and Locke work together on cold cases that quickly become live cases. So then in book 2, they work on their first live case, and it's all about a serial killer that's crucifying their victims. Honestly, it's absolutely grim. And then in this one, it's all about a headless, handless body that's been found on a farm. And then after further investigation, they find more remains. Hence the name of the book, Human Remains. And these bodies are kind of linked to an old case where Cat put somebody away a long time ago. And Cat finds herself under scrutiny because people are starting to question whether or not she put the right person away. And to be honest, I just love these books because of the characters. You definitely need to read them in order, in my opinion. I've seen some people saying they can be read as standalones, but I just feel like you get a better experience if you read them in order because you kind of follow the character development. Do you know what I mean? Like along with the books. I love Cat and Locke together. You've got the banter between them. So Cat as a human trusts her gut and her instinct. And then you've got Locke as the AI detective who only relies on logic and facts. And it's all about how, yeah, they butt heads and they disagree on things, and yeah, ultimately they need to solve these cases together, even though they work in completely different ways. And honestly, I don't think anything I can say will be able to do these books justice, particularly book 3. So book 1 and book 2, I gave those 4 stars. I really enjoyed them. Book 3 was a 5-star read. It was absolutely incredible. And I cried at the end. I cried at the end of a thriller book. I've got no words. I don't even know what to tell you at this point. I highly recommend these. I recommend them to anyone, to be honest, but particularly if you love a police procedural thriller and you're looking for something a little bit different, because I feel like the AI element definitely adds another dimension to these books. And that brings me to the end of my top 15 thriller books of 2025 video. I'm just relieved my voice held out, to be honest, because halfway through, it was touch and go, let me tell you. My little water bottle has been doing overtime in between filming, but yeah, it held on, and that's the main thing. I really hope you've enjoyed watching this video. There is nothing I love more than talking to you all about my favourite books. I've got my favourite horror books coming. I've got my favourite books, like the ultimate top 25 of 2025 coming. I've got favourite audiobooks as well. So there's lots more exciting videos to come. Please let me know in the comments what your favourite thriller book or books in 2025 were. I am always looking for more recommendations. Not that my TBR isn't already completely out of control, but I'm always looking for recommendations. And you guys haven't let me down so far. So yeah, if you've got any recommendations or any thrillers that were stand out for you in 2025, please let me know in the comments so that I can add them to my list. If you did enjoy, please don't forget to hit that little subscribe button below. Give me a thumbs up, even the hype button. Any type of engagement massively helps, and I would absolutely love it if you decided to stick around. And yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there for now. I'm going to give my little voice a rest. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Happy reading, and I'll catch you all next time.